It must have been known to man prior, but the carrot and stick approach to people management became a popular management practice following the efforts of a gentleman named Frederick Winslow Taylor, a mechanical engineer in the late 1880s. Winslow believed that the carrot and stick needed to be used to make workers increase output. Produce as desired, they should get rewarded. Fail, and the repercussions should be severe. Inherent to Winslow's management practices was the belief that human beings are intrinsically unmotivated to work hard. Importantly, in the context of our discussions, his methods worked. For example, at Midvale Steel, his methods doubled output. At Bethlehem Steel, where he worked later, he reduced the number of workers by 72% without any dip in output. Taylorism, as his theory was named, soon became the dominant management philosophy worldwide. However, somewhere along the line, organizations across the world failed to notice something. Taylorism stopped working. Why would it stop working suddenly? To put it simply, the nature of work changed. Since the early 1900s to today, we moved away from a manufacturing economy to what is now known as the knowledge economy. Work today is less manual in nature, like in factories, and more cerebral or mental in its constitution. The jobs that we do today are also a lot more complex than the job that the workers at the factories where Taylor worked performed. What Dan Ariely found. In the year 2009, a team of researchers led by Dan Ariely, a psychologist and behavioral economist, ran some experiments in India, interestingly, to test one of Taylor's theories, namely a higher pay leads to greater output. The team broke volunteers into 3 groups. One group was promised an incentive equivalent to 1 day's pay for good performance. He called this group the low bonus group. A second team was promised 1 week's pay for good performance. He called this the medium incentive group. A third team was promised 5 months' salary, that's 150 times what those in the lowest incentive group would be paid for good performance. What the team found was that the team in low and medium incentive groups performed fairly well. However, the group that was offered the highest salary performed the worst. In a subsequent experiment, the team ran 2 tests, one which involved a simple mental job and the other that involved a more complex mental task. When the job was simple, they found awarding people money works. But when the job is harder, interestingly, and this might run counterintuitive to what we might believe in, higher rewards do not improve work output, but rather lead to decreased work output instead. So is money not motivation at all? Most of us may think that this is utter nonsense, that money is important to everyone, and you would be right if you felt that way. However, what studies on money and its effect on job satisfaction have shown is that while everyone does love a pay hike, the effect of that hike does not last long. It is like driving a new car. After a while, the novelty of the car fades. You kinda get used to it. We adapt to the higher pay, and it no longer motivates us the way it did in the beginning. So what about the fear of punishment as a motivator? Using fear to drive performance, that is, threatening team members with some sort of punishment in the event that some act is not carried out or if a defined goal is not achieved, is what sociologists call fear appeal messages. If used for long periods of time, or in other words, if people are exposed to fear for lengthy periods of time, it leads to negative reactions. This, in part, is due to how the human body responds to fear. It secretes cortisol, the stress hormone, which in short doses is helpful, but in large, sustained doses leads to physical and mental harm. Bottom line, fear used as a primary means of motivation, and even with the right people, it is counterproductive in the long run. So what then? The carrot and stick are what we call extrinsic motivation tools. They have limited effectiveness. What one needs is a more effective and lasting means of engaging and motivating people, something more intrinsic to them. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, scientist and author, in the course of his studies, encountered people so engrossed in their work that to them it seemed as though they were in a trance, captivated by the joy of the task. No, not captivated with the rewards that come with the task, but captivated with performing the task itself. He sought to find out why. His studies revealed that people find true meaning and take joy in their work when they see themselves as being part of something larger than themselves. He says, one cannot lead a life that is truly excellent without feeling that one belongs to something greater and more permanent than oneself. One couldn't have said it better. We human beings will give our work our everything when we see our work as being part of something larger than ourselves. Something more permanent and enduring than us. He also found another very interesting fact. He found that the best moments in people's work lives usually happen when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits voluntarily in an effort to accomplish something difficult but worthwhile. In simple English, we human beings willingly accept and find the greatest happiness in pursuing stretch goals. Not when we are forced to do so, but when we do so voluntarily. And that happens when we see our work as being part of something enduring and lasting. If people feel the task they're doing has no meaning, they lose interest. Serving a greater cause helps people feel connected to their jobs, teams, and the organization. This drives them to voluntarily do their best at work. They do this not for the reward, but for the work itself, because it meets a deep-set psychological need that human beings possess. The most effective leaders, like the founders of MSF, are those that help their people meet this deep-set psychological need. They help people see how what they do on a daily basis ensures the creation of something larger than themselves. Not just team goals, but something larger than themselves.
Discovered something new? Hit like, share, and subscribe to keep the knowledge flowing.